Hello, this is Evelyn with your Libra New Moon newsletter or blog or words of wisdom, whichever way you like to put it. I've titled it Libra Liberation, but you know what? We're not free yet. We've got a few months to go before the energy really changes, and it's going to be an interesting ride. So prepare yourselves. We still have strong planets in Aries pushing for change and challenging the old order of the stellium of planets in Capricorn, Pluto, Jupiter and Saturn. Mars, Eris, Lilith, the dark moon, are all in Aries, making square aspects, hard aspects to the Capricorn stellium. So there's much global tension, I probably don't need to tell you that, all around us. Jupiter and Saturn are moving more quickly now, and by the solstice in December, Jupiter and Saturn will be together in Aquarius. So the December 21st solstice is going to be quite a significant one in terms of the change of energy this year. In the meantime, on October the 4th, Pluto turned direct again after spending many months processing the dirt, because it's what Pluto does. It's still working at clearing out the mess. Pluto is still in Capricorn, cleaning out the swamp, if you will. Let's put it another way. Pluto's role in Capricorn is to break down all that is no longer serving humanity, completely destroy systems that don't work. It's painful, it's uncomfortable. We will mourn the old ways of doing life. But I suggest you turn your mental and imaginative energy towards creating a new way of doing life. Create patterns that serve yourself and your family and your community in a healthy way. We are in the age of Aquarius. Caring for each other is more valuable than reaching for the dollar, if one still exists. So that brings me to a little bit of discussion about no cash. What about the notion of a cashless society? We currently both run cash and cards as a way of purchasing goods and services. Some places accept only cards because they're afraid of COVID being transmitted in the cash. Although cash is still legal tender. And other places request cash only and charge if you pay with a credit card. So what do you think about the notion of a cashless society? Remember that card-only transactions enable us to be tracked by artificial intelligence for all sorts of activities. Is that what you want? I ask you then, how do you tip the guy at the light who washes your windscreen? How do charities collect those little bits of coin that we don't want or we haven't wanted, but that collectively add substantially to their income? How do homeless folk raise the funds to buy a meal or a bed? How can you teach your children to save by putting their coins in a piggy bank like we've all been taught? Or don't they need to do that anymore? Well, what about surprises? You know, Uranus is the planet of surprises and it's currently in Taurus, an earth sign. But expect surprising information and revelations with Mercury in Scorpio going retrograde and opposite this Uranus in Taurus. In Scorpio, Mercury's inquiring and curious energy will be digging up the dirt. Opposite Uranus, the planet of surprises, we could expect some unexpected news, good or bad. In early November, Mercury in Libra for 10 days squares Saturn in Capricorn on the 3rd of November and then turns in direct motion. It is interesting that that stationing direct coincides with the presidential election in the US. I don't want to speculate about that event nor its outcome, except to say that it's not going to be pretty. The planet Jupiter expands whatever it touches. Jupiter, still in Capricorn, joins with Pluto in November, suggesting there may be big revelations, big changes. The planetary story continues with Mercury in Scorpio, as I've mentioned before. If you'd like a little other insight into this Mercury in Scorpio, a lady called Molly McCord has a really interesting podcast about this topic. So check YouTube for Mercury Retrograde in Scorpio, Healing Journey into Your Emotional Underworld podcast by Molly McCord. I'll put it in the notes so you can check it out. I've spoken before about a temperature check. Last week I received a new lens in my left eye, so I can see much better. It's fantastic. Woohoo! But part of the process of the day surgery was having a gun pointed at my head for a temperature check. No. I offered my wrist, which the nurse accepted. I explained, I'm not interested in having a laser beam pointed at my pineal gland. She maintained a professional facial expression. A little while later, while sitting in the waiting room out of her sight, I heard her asking patients if they were willing to have the gun pointed at the pineal gland. Or was she taking the mickey out of me? What do you think? Our pineal gland is the master gland of the endocrine system of the body, regulating all the subsidiary glands in the endocrine system. Containing many cells that are just like the cells in our eyes, it is also called the third eye. It's in here. And the main function of the pineal gland is to manage the melatonin levels of the body, regulating our daily rhythm, our sleep and awake cycles. Spiritually, it's the connection with the energy that connects us all. And deterioration of the pineal gland is understood to be a feature of some degenerative diseases, including Alzheimer's. We should be careful to protect and take care of this important gland in our heads. No laser guns for me, thank you. Fear and kidneys. Each zodiac sign connects with a specific part of the body. In Libra, the focus is on the kidneys or the adrenals, which hold fear, false expectations appearing real. Remember to breathe fully, really expanding that abdominal cavity, and breathe out fully. You can't expect to take in really good fresh air if the old air is not all gone. So check out my YouTube video on how to breathe. Practice that when you have a moment. Breathing fully also opens this vagus nerve, affects this vagus nerve along the front of the body, and calms our feelings. Allows us to deal with whatever is confronting us. Doing Dhanurasan, the bow, will help us tone our adrenals, which also manage our fear response. So check out my YouTube class for the energy of Libra. It's easy, you can do it. Work with your imagination, seeing yourself as you would like to be, whatever that might be. The planet Neptune in Pisces enables us to dream big, and it's being helped by the Pluto energy in Capricorn. Remember, we are very, powerful beings. And the power comes from in here and in our hearts. Now, if you would like a personal astrological map to guide you, please be in touch with me and we can make a time to chat. Just because the rest of the world is falling apart doesn't mean to say that you do. I want to talk a little bit about plastics and recycling. Like many, I'm appalled about the way our community disposes of plastic without due regard to nature. So whenever I'm able to use non-plastic material, I do that. I also wash plastic bags that I use for food and I recycle them. I'm looking to buy a watering can, but I'm looking for a metal one, not a plastic one. It was good to read in my very regular emails from the Urban Monk some information and reference to a scientific paper about the discovery of new enzymes that eat plastic and break the molecules down into individual molecules. By recycling it, we won't have to generate new plastic. We also keep new PET from finding its way into our wilderness and water supplies, says he. If you're interested in reading more about this scientific research, there is a reference, a link, which I'll put in the note on Facebook, and you can follow that up, or you'll find it on my blog on my website. And so with the planet Uranus, planet of technology in Taurus, I'm expecting there'll be many more wonderful developments around new technology which solves environmental issues that we as humanity have created by not giving our Earth the proper consideration. So what about nutrition? I've waffled on about this before, and you're probably inundated with nutrition. I was waiting in the ophthalmology rooms for an eye check just yesterday, and inevitably the TV is providing entertainment. Can't have magazines anymore. They carry the virus or something worse. The segment being shown was about breakfast. It showcased everything in packages, both food and beverages. Nowhere was there any fresh fruit, eggs, cheese, fish, meat, or nutritious bread. I guess the farmers can't afford to spend money on advertising their fresh fruit and veg. They receive so little as it is from the farm gate. It's just the food processing manufacturers that make good profit from people wanting to make it easy. I encourage you, no matter what your stage in life, the first meal of the day is very important. Some folk do not like to eat as soon as they get up. That's okay. Your first meal may be at 11 o'clock. Make sure it is nourishing. As a yoga teacher, I was trained not only in the physical activities that I teach you, but also in the importance of proper nutrition in the body to nourish the body, the mind, and therefore support the soul's journey. It's so important to have some protein as part of your first meal of the day. Remember that proper brain function requires at least 25% of the protein that you eat. Anything packaged has preservatives in it, and you're paying for packaging. I encourage you to eat protein for breakfast and lunch and dinner, not only to feed the brain, but remember that protein releases its nutrients slowly into the body. And so if you have decent protein for breakfast, you won't be hungry an hour or so later and inclined to eat food that's not good for you. Your breakfast meal doesn't need to be big. It just needs to be nutrient rich. I suggest a fruit salad with yogurt, not flavoured yogurt, and a good handful of nuts. Or grilled cheese on good bread toast. Maybe you want to add some tomatoes or fresh asparagus or mushrooms. Eggs in any form are a really good protein package. And you can put tomatoes or greens or other things with them as well. Fish in any form, again with greens or rice or both. Meat with greens. One of my friends routinely has a chop for breakfast with greens because it provides her with a really good protein and vegetable base, and she doesn't need to eat for almost the rest of the day. So with the encouragement to consider your nutrition, be mindful of how you're feeling, and understanding that Libra is about the balance of relationships with yourself, with your partners, with your community. Have a good new moon in Libra. Have a good month, and I'll talk to you again in Scorpio energy. Bye for now.